Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Nazarene Veronica and today I'm doing my first ever live video, so go easy on me. Oh, is it even on? I think it's on. So go easy on me and let me know if there's anything going wrong. Let me know if you can hear me. If you can't hear the video, then obviously let me know for that too, because yeah, like I said, my first ever video, which is live. Also, you may notice I got my hair done. It's quite different. I don't know if you've noticed. I shouldn't really be saying this because I have got a audience who is 93% male, so I don't think you guys care. But I'm going to be doing a live reaction video today. So the first reaction video that I'm going to be reacting to is called Go Be Equal, Anti-Feminist Clashes with Journalist Over Women's Rights. So you may have seen this before, but basically Pearl went on Talk TV and yeah, there were some heated debates on there. So let's take a look at that. If I can figure it out. There we go. Let me know if you can see it, by the way.
Pearl Davis has racked up a legion of online followers and plenty of breathless newspaper coverage by sharing her incendiary views on modern feminism. The New York Post called her the female Andrew Tate. So she tapped into genuine female pushback to the excesses of wokery, or is she just an attention seeker? We'll find out in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the clip that sent her viral.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion. If anything, this is probably my most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had an abortion. 1 out of 3 women has an STD. Average body count is over 5, so that your average wife has slept with over 5 people. 95% of women are not virgins on their wedding days. So I understand the complaint.
Okay, well, Pearl joins me now alongside political journalist Ava Santini, who was nodding furiously along there to everything she heard. Right, Pearl, you've be called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking about, but overall, I think he's got a good message. I think he's good for young men.
Okay, look, you're talking about women predominantly, which is why you've got this big following. And your view is that modern feminism is deeply flawed. I would argue a lot of your proposals, like taking the vote away from women, are deeply regressive. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to remove, just from yourself, the right to vote?
I personally don't think anybody should vote. So a lot of people, they find out that I work with Pearl and they're like, wait, Pearl's the one who said that women shouldn't vote. Does that not make you angry? Like, you're a woman. Does that not make you angry that she thinks that you shouldn't be able to vote? And I'm like, well, no, because I don't think anybody should vote. I don't think democracy is actually a thing which exists anymore in this country anyway. I think it's definitely an illusion of choice, and I think it's a delusion nowadays if you think that we do actually have any power over who runs the country and who has any control over us. I personally don't think anyone who is running is actually able to control us and have any good sort of effect on our lives. So I personally do not vote, and I think I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this, and I'm not going to vote. I used to when I was young and sort of disillusioned, and I believed it was a real, thing that we could do, but nowadays I don't believe it anymore. I've seen too many things go wrong. You know, what happened in America with Trump. I do believe that vote was rigged, and there's evidence to show that. So I think anyone who votes thinking that we have any influence on the way that the world runs is a bit deluded. So yeah, I don't have any problem with her saying that because I don't think anyone should vote.
Well, what happened was I had the same view, right? Back when I started, I was like, why? I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote. And I couldn't figure out, like, why would women not? No, it's true. It's true. You look it up.
At the time.
At the time.
Because they've been conditioned by men to think that they shouldn't have a vote.
I mean, that's what they say. But, you know, I started reading their writings, right? And what I found out was that the reason a lot of women advocated for it was because they believed it was the beginning of the breakdown of the family. You know, before you became one in marriage, 85% of people were married. And, you know, I hate to say it, but they were right. What has happened 100 years later?
But what's that got to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility. Again, men are 80 to 90% of the military. They run all of the infrastructures that make society run. So I just think if we want an equal say in society, then be equal. Do 50% of the hard jobs. Be 50% of the military. In the U.S., they're fined $250,000 if they don't join selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Okay, but specifically on the vote, what would having the right to vote have to do with family cohesion, for example?
Well, because again, before you weren't trying to divide a family. It was one family unit. You had one vote for the family. I mean, I don't think it's good for a family to have two votes.
Ava?
That is true. Even though, obviously, like I just said, I don't believe in democracy in this day and age. I don't believe it's actually, I think it's just an illusion. But if it was to be a working system that we did still have, I don't believe that it is right for a family to be split in terms of voting for political parties, because that just causes, you know, serious arguments, because obviously your political views do have a massive effect on your relationship. And yeah, it causes serious arguments. It leads to divorce as well, because if you see that you have a massive difference in opinion, then that can cause problems and arguments, and then cause you to feel bitter towards your partner, and then it will end in divorce eventually, quite possibly. So yeah, that's not right. And, you know, I can see where she's coming from with that. It definitely makes sense.
Your mouth seems to have dropped about.
No, do you know what it's
feet.
I know. It's just sort of a bit galaxy brain. I feel like, you know, the stats that you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universe.
Which stats?
They just kind of don't really add up. I mean, just to take you back to the to the women's writings that you've allegedly read. I mean, at
allegedly?
The time, well,
what do you mean allegedly?
At the time that you're talking about, you know, women weren't really allowed to write. They weren't allowed to go to school.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. That's incorrect. The first female property owner was in the 1600s. The idea that women couldn't work and couldn't.
I'm so sorry, but that would be inherited property.
The first female millionaire was in the late 1800s.
And was that inherited?
No, it wasn't. It was self-made. Yes, it was.
Self-made.
Yes, it was.
She never inherited land.
Yes, she did not inherit it.
What law permitted that?
What?
What law permitted that?
Well, there was no law. I mean, there's always been women that were influential in history.
Let's get on to the vote. So what I don't understand is, you know, a part of your message, I've researched you today, and hang on a minute.
Okay.
You know, your big push is that you care about men, and you don't think that men are getting enough of a say. But
I care about
hang
women
on,
too.
I haven't made the point yet.
Okay.
Because of feminism, okay? What I wonder is, when you start making calls out like repeal the 19th, women shouldn't be allowed to vote, how is that helping young men? Because these young men have women in their lives, they have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers, and they turn around, they don't know how to act around women because you're giving them license to be misogynistic.
I wouldn't call it misogynistic. I say be equal. So again, men do all of the
feminists.
Well, then okay, I'd love for the feminists, please apply for the oil rigs. Please go do the hard jobs in society. They're open, they're hiring, because I don't think men or women are equal until we do the equal work. So no, listen. Go apply to be on the oil rigs. Go be a plumber, go be an electrician, go be on the front lines of the military, and then we should have equal rights. But until feminists are willing to do that, I don't believe we should have the freedom without the responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't think that...
That's very true. And this woman who Pearl was talking to, I mean, it's not really a conversation. It's more like, you know, the woman's trying to shout at her and talk over her. But I really, really, really cannot stand her. I think that she is so grinding. She just grinds my gears and makes me annoyed. Just hearing her voice makes me annoyed. Recently, she got into a bit of a spat with Lawrence Fox, who is an acquaintance of mine. And basically, she was like calling out men, and basically a lot of the things she said about men was just horrendous, basically laughing when a guy was talking about how men should have like a special category of mental health help to go to, so that it's not like mixed women and men, because they have completely different problems when it comes to their issues in life, and that can obviously lead to mental health issues as well. And he was saying that men should have their own separate place to go to, so they felt more comfortable. And she was basically laughing and saying, no, it should all be the same, like, you know, men aren't special kind of thing. And basically, you know, he was talking about men committing you know what. And she was smiling as he was saying it, as if it was funny or something. And he, you know, you could see he was genuinely taken aback because he couldn't believe how cold this woman was. So, yeah, a lot of people went at her on Twitter and Instagram. And for, you know, I understand why, because I kind of felt angry hearing that too. And then she basically has like a long history of saying to people that she wouldn't shag them, saying to men, oh, I wouldn't shag you, blah, 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 just to make them feel bad about themselves. And so Lawrence Fox was on live TV talking about how horrible of a woman she is and how she hates men, looking at what she says about them. And and he said that he wouldn't shag her. Fair enough, right? What man, he said, like, what self-respecting man would want to shag a woman like her, kind of thing. And she took it so badly, considering she says that about other men. She took it so badly, and she was like, she went on every single news channel saying how offended she is and like crying on TV and things. If you want to be so masculine and you want to dish it out, you have to take it. And this woman does not know how to take it. It's just hard to watch.
That I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm absolutely not.
But
you said you were a volleyball.
Wow.
You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got more strength than I do. I don't think.
But
that
I don't have more strength. I don't have more strength than the average man.
I'm not going to take your right away. I don't
have more strength than the average man. But again, it goes back to go be a plumber. You want to be equal, go be equal.
But you want divorce to be made illegal.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because I don't think what we have today is really marriage. What is marriage? It's for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
When there's a 50% divorce rate, and the average marriage is 8 years.
Why is that all down to the women, though?
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
So why feminists?
You asked why I want divorce to be banned.
Yeah.
Can I finish that first? So I'm saying, you know, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
But doesn't the sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin? So you wouldn't be able to get married?
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, then I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
And that's a fair complaint. I wish I was, but we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
That's so true. That's just like a sad low blow that she had to resort to because she couldn't think of any other way to win this argument. It's so true what Pearl's saying. If you don't believe in marriage in what it really is, and you get married anyway thinking that it's like a game or something, and then decide that that's not what you really want to do, and you decide to go for a divorce, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. It's like saying you don't believe in God, but I don't know, going to church every Sunday. Why would you do it if you don't believe in God? It's a weird dynamic, kind of. I don't understand that. And she's just pointing that out and saying that so many people get married and they don't even know the true definition of what marriage is. And in fact, it's quite offensive as a Christian. It's quite offensive that you don't really believe in marriage, but you're getting married anyway. I'm offended.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed to.
Hang on. Okay, if I may, at some stage jump in. Isn't the whole point of being a feminist, though, that women are entitled to have their own views?
Absolutely.
So she's perfectly entitled to her views.
Yeah, but you can't.
You might not like them.
But I'm here to challenge
Isn't she exercising her right as a... Are you a feminist?
No, I am not.
Really?
No, don't go that far.
You don't want to be a feminist?
No, because I think if feminists really believed in equality, but you guys don't, I would love for you, there is an oil rig hiring. There is an engineering
I would actually love to see Ava Santana on an oil rig.
No, seriously.
So would I.
There is a building being built next to my building. Go do it, feminists. Go do it. And me, I'm
doing the same job that I'm doing right now.
When you find the man you want to get married to, are you saying you will be with that man whatever happens the rest of your life.
Yes, for the vows that we're supposed to live by.
How do you know you can keep them?
I mean, I think it's a choice. And that's the thing, like, women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
Ava.
I completely agree with that. I personally believe that love actually is a choice, that you can make that choice to love your partner every day. You know, it's completely a choice. You can choose to not put any effort in, and obviously it will fizzle out on its own and you'll lose that marriage. Or you can choose to put effort in and go the extra mile and show your partner how much you care about them, and do things that, you know, other people probably wouldn't do for their partners, but you do them because you believe that, you know, your partner is worth it and you want to show your partner how special they are to you. You have that choice and you can go either way. And obviously, if you make certain choices to focus on other things and not put that much effort into a relationship or a marriage, it's not going to stay. And you have to nurture it. It really, really, really is like a plant or a flower. You need to nurture it every single day. There's no day off from it. If you have a day off, then it can lead to bigger problems. You need to constantly nurture it, constantly put effort into it, constantly show that, you know, forgiveness and understanding. Otherwise it will fizzle out. And what she's saying here is it's a choice. Love is a choice. Marriage is a choice. You can make that choice to put that effort into it and it will stay. Love is completely a choice. I really, really do believe that.
I've got to say, it's a little bit listening to Andrew Tate, where some of it I really don't agree with. I don't agree with the vote stuff. When I hear things like that, I think there'll be a lot of people, especially older generation women perhaps, who think, you know what, she's got a point.
Well, I mean, I believe in agency, so I think that if a woman is going to look after her children in divorce, that's absolutely fine. I also believe in your right to speak your mind about it. What I don't understand...
I'd like to say, even before the 1920s,
do you know what I mean?
Women could speak openly. This idea that, like, women couldn't talk the last 500 years. There have been women throughout history...
the American state education system has failed before. It's failing now.
There have been women throughout history that have read, written, and been very influential in society.
Okay.
So this idea like women could never do it.
Do you know what I don't understand though is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, like, you know, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it. What I don't understand is when it kind of seeps into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have abortions, you say that they have STDs. You know,
I mean, the question is, are they fat? Yes or no? The average American woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I mean, let's be honest. We now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth in that.
And this is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive?
Well,
It's crazy what I'm seeing on Instagram. You know, every single underwear ad that I'm seeing recently has overweight people on it. I don't want to see that. I'm sorry. I don't want to see it. And I think that if you're encouraging people or, you know, saying that you can be a model when you're that overweight, it's so bad for society. You're literally making people unhealthy. You're making people lazy and think that they can stay in these bad habits and stay unhealthy and eat badly and not exercise because, you know, they feel they can get away with having this massive body and, you know, be completely unhealthy. If you encourage things like that and you show things like that on social media, it's going to influence people into thinking that it's okay to be like that. I mean, I guess it is okay. Like, you know, it's not like the end of the world if people are, but it shouldn't be celebrated. It should not be sort of revered like that as it is right now. And it should actually be discouraged, and people should be made to feel like they should change that about themselves because it's a choice. You can literally, again, just like love, being overweight is a choice as well. You can choose to change your diet. There are certain diets which are amazing for weight loss, like keto, or carnivore diets are amazing for weight loss as well. People have literally shredded their fat off just by changing the diet, not even exercising much. But obviously exercise helps too. And that's also a choice. But people they've been conditioned to believe that it's not even a choice to be overweight at this point. I'm seeing people literally say that it's not a choice on social media. And I'm like, what? I'm telling you now, if you lived with me and I put you on a strict diet and I made you exercise every single day, you'd realise it is a choice very, very quickly.
Nonsense.
We're not talking about morbidly obese. I was actually watching your podcast earlier, and you spoke to someone who was, I would say, probably a size 12, and you called her fat, obese, and a divorcee.
She was fat, obese, and a divorcee.
wasn't.
I mean, like, I don't know what to say. This is the thing, women, we don't want to live in reality. We don't want to say things that are true. Was she fat? Yes. Was she a divorcee? Yes. These things are just objective facts.
Okay, I'm going to have to objectively...
And she insulted me first. They always do.
I'm going to have to objectively end the debate, but it was an interesting conversation. I think we should get you two back together as a matter of urgency. Thank you very much, Pearl.
I love Pearl. It's so refreshing to hear someone just literally speak as honestly as she does, and she's not even scared of the consequences, which I love. Like, it's so hard to come by nowadays. But yes, so I saw a comment saying 2 women on the BBC asked each other if they would shag Lawrence Fox, and there were no complaints. Of course there were no complaints, because when it's about a man, it's okay. But as soon as a man said it about a woman, her, Ava Santina, on TV, he was literally slated. He was, every single newspaper was going at him. There were so many complaints to Ofcom saying that they should sack him. And guess what? He got sacked. He got sacked, and then the presenter who was presenting the show that he was on, Dan Wootton, he got sacked too for not apparently telling him to his face that he shouldn't be saying these things, and for sort of smiling and laughing with him. So that was enough to get him sacked as well. And then Calvin Robinson, who is another friend of mine, Reverend Calvin Robinson, he also has a show on GB News, and he basically said on Twitter that he's not going to go onto his show on GB News unless they bring these people back, because he doesn't agree with this cancel culture. And guess what? He got sacked as well. Unbelievable. It's just crazy. Like, I think there was an agenda behind that, though, because very, very, very recently before that, GB News was taken over by another company. I think it was Sky News. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was Sky News. And ever since that company took over, bam, all of the best presenters who are the biggest truth tellers got cancelled and sacked. So, yeah. Anyway, next video is called Men Tend to be Better People, Pearl Davis on Feminism and Traditional Wives. Let's take a look. I can already kind of see how this will go.
Welcome back to PIERS Uncensored. Well, model Emily Ratajkowski, one of my favourite dimwits, sparked controversy recently by claiming that getting divorced before 30 is chic.
So it seems that a lot of ladies are getting divorced before they turn 30. And as someone who got married at 26, has been separated for a little over a year, 32, I don't think there's anything better. If there is nothing better than being in your 30s, still being hot, maybe having a little bit of your own money, figuring out what you want to do with your life. For all of those people who are stressed or feeling stressed about that, about being divorced, like, it's good. Congratulations.
It's like, congratulations. God, she's ridiculous. Well, divorce is certainly becoming more common, and marriage itself is becoming a fierce frontier in the raging culture wars. On the one side, there are feminists rejecting a dated concept. On the other, so-called trad wives who think it binds our societies together. Well, trad wives spend their days dutifully cooking and cleaning while their husbands go to work. Esther Williams, who's a 25-year-old trad wife, has amassed hundreds of thousands of followers by showing off her trad wife life online. She even gave up a job to be the perfect wife. So is she and others like her saving society?
Those videos literally look like my dream. I cannot wait. Cannot wait to be a wife, be a mother, literally just be at home all day. I cannot wait to be able to have an entire day to showcase my skills in homemaking and my skills in cleaning and my skills in cooking. Like, genuinely, I love these things, and at the moment I don't have time to do them. Well, I do, but not as much time as I would like. I have a very small amount of free time at the moment, working a lot, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not married yet, so can't wait for that day to happen. And yeah, and to be a mother. And those videos of just like countryside and being outdoors and baking and making jam and conserves and preserving things. Oh my gosh, cannot wait. And I can't wait to grow my own food as well. cannot wait. Oh my gosh, and to have animals and a cow and milk the cow every morning. And sheep and goats. Anyway, sorry.
Or are they selling out the sisterhood? Well, joining me now is traditional wife and influencer Esther Williams, and in the studio the socialist and author Grace Blakely and YouTuber Pearl Davis. This might be the best lineup in the history of television for a debate of this nature, so I'm very excited. All right, Esther Williams, let's start with you as the trad wife. Sell it to me. Why do you think we should all go back to having trad wives in marriages?
Well, I believe that, I actually don't believe that everyone should be a traditional wife. I think that it is a choice, and I think it's a lovely choice if a woman wants to simply be a wife and a mother, and that's enough for her. And it's a simple way of living with traditional gender roles. It's balanced, and we don't have to do it all as women. I think we've proven that it's possible, but at what cost, right?
Right, and in terms of what being a trad wife involves, what do you think it means to be a trad wife?
Well, to adhere to traditional gender roles. So what I mean by that is the husband, he is the provider of the home. He goes out, he works, and he knows how to protect his family if need be. And the wife, she's the homemaker. She does the cooking, she does the cleaning, and she takes care of the home and children if there are any, and herself, of course. So it's adhering to traditional gender roles.
Okay, Grace, I'm sure you thoroughly agree with this, don't you?
Look, I mean, what Esther's just said about the fact that women should be able to choose, obviously I completely agree. And, men should be able to choose as well. I think the feminist critique of traditional gender roles and gender ideology isn't that some people like to stay at home and others don't. It's that you shouldn't be bound to pursue a certain life based on the sex that you were born into at birth. The one issue I do have is, I know actually a friend of mine whose sister got involved in the trad wife movement in the US, basically. She was quite young. She got married to someone who was like, this is what we're doing. You're going to be a trad wife. And basically came to regret it. She felt like she'd been controlled, like her life became very small, and she couldn't get out. She couldn't escape because, she'd lost all her friends, and this has become basically her entire life. And it concerns me that sometimes we see this narrative on social media that women have to be a certain way in order to get a husband. So you have to be this particular model of femininity for people to love you. And I think that's really sad, because I don't think anyone should have to shave off any parts of themselves to be loved or to find a husband or, anything like that.
All right.
Wait, so she doesn't think that you need to be a particular type of person or to attract a man? I mean, I don't understand that, because if you're not feminine and you haven't got the characteristics which are attractive to men, you're not going to be attractive to men, so you're not going to find a husband. It's kind of common sense. I don't understand why she has a problem with facts. I mean, maybe you would attract a man who isn't very masculine, but I personally wouldn't want that. If that's her thing, then okay, she can go be as masculine as she wants to. But yeah, because what you are, you will attract the opposite, because that's just how it works. For every force, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you're going to attract the opposite to what you are. So if you want to be masculine, that's fine, but you're going to be attractive to very feminine men. But she's probably on the pill, so she probably already is.
Pearl, what do you think?
I think it's a good that we're seeing a return to traditionalism. Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
How
I don't know.
How is the feminist movement of the last few decades, how has it gone for you? I mean, when you look at it and see how women have progressed, do you think it's been largely a force for good, or do you think, as the trad wives do, that perhaps we've lost that sense of gender rules, for want of a better phrase, which actually work very well for many people?
I mean, we've seen families disappear. I saw a study the other day that said only 25% of, this is an American stat, but American households have families. So I guess there's positives and there's negatives, but it's at what cost,
What to you?
150 years ago, the average woman had 7 kids, 85% of people were married.
I mean,
You know,
there was also
now-
much
now-
higher infant mortality,
but the
and
thing
women
is,
died very young, and,
I mean, women were more depressed than ever before. We're on antidepressants.
I mean, there are a lot of...
Women over the age of 45 are the least happy demographic.
There are a lot of very
complex
reasons for that.
Well,
I think
and the issue you have is women like Emily Ratajkowski, marriage, again, I've said this before, marriage isn't marriage anymore. The average marriage is 7 years. We have things like no-fault divorce, leave if you're unhappy. So
what does that mean, marriage isn't marriage anymore? Because there have been so many marriages over the course of history where people have been very unhappy. Either the man or the woman has been very unhappy. And they've been forced basically to stay in a marriage. It could have been an abusive marriage. It could have been an emotionally abusive marriage. And that would, we have one life. Why would you spend it with someone who doesn't make you happy?
Marriage was about duty. And this is the problem we have with women. Like men tend to be better people than us. Yeah, they really do. They tend to... No. They tend to do the right thing.
They are a much maligned species, I agree.
I mean, there's a reason we have phrases like a man of his word, right?
Yeah.
Or a woman of her word. Because men will actually stick things out. Women, when shit gets hard, we just leave. And you're proving my point. What was your first answer? My happiness, right?
Of course. Everyone deserves to be happy. Everyone deserves to be loved.
A family doesn't work when it's about you. It's supposed to be about your kids.
Well,
and that's the problem
in
in
modern
everyone.
There's a balance and a compromise in relationships. Am I allowed to talk now?
Okay, go on.
Look, I think relationships are about balance. They're about compromise. They're about knowing, understanding yourself, learning to, know and understand another person. Eventually, potentially, if you want to, bringing children into the world and teaching them how to do that as well. Teaching them to balance a sense of their own identity with the love that they have for another person.
Did you say marriage is about learning to find yourself or discovering yourself? Since when? Because I don't think that's the main point of marriage. I think you could find yourself through it, but I don't think you're going into a marriage thinking, okay, I'm going into this marriage trying to discover myself and find myself. That's like the worst recipe for disaster ever. Or the best recipe for disaster ever, I should say. Like, if you're going into a marriage focusing on yourself and focusing on finding yourself and trying to, better yourself in a way, just focusing on that, and then the other person's focusing on you because that's how it's supposed to be, then there's going to be a massive imbalance there. They're both, you and your partner are both focusing on you, and then he's going to feel neglected, and then it'll just end in disaster, basically. But the way you should go into it is going into it just trying to discover your partner, and you're both doing that together, trying to discover each other and learning every day what works and what doesn't, and what the other person likes and what they don't, and trying to sort of change certain things about yourself to become better for your partner. That's what marriage is. And if you don't believe that's what marriage is, then you shouldn't be getting married, because you truly don't believe in marriage, because you don't understand what it is fully. Yeah, marriage is definitely a choice, and it's really hard. People completely underestimate how hard marriage is. And I've heard this firsthand, like, people think it's easy and they just do it on a whim without really thinking about the consequences. And that's why, like they're saying, we have a massive rise in divorces, because people get married without realizing what marriage is about, and they're too self-absorbed, especially women. It's true what Pearl is saying. It's usually women who are more self-absorbed in a marriage, and they want to focus on themselves, and they think that they could do better, and they have, temptations in those ways, and it's sad. But, social media is telling women to be more self-absorbed, and they're saying it's a good thing, so I'm not really surprised.
And, for example, I know an older woman, actually, who's a friend of our family, who got divorced at about 60. She had, this lovely family. They were together since they were 18. And she said, I got to a point after I'd stopped being a mother and, I was just kind of getting on, I realised I'd lost my sense of who I was. And I didn't really feel like I knew who I was anymore, because I'd always just been a wife and a mother. And I wanted to go out and explore that. And I think that's fantastic. Good for her.
What is traditionalism?
I don't know what you think traditionalism is.
I would say a modern mentality is me before the family. I would say traditionalism is the family before me, especially in women.
You're onto something.
And so what it's interesting you said 60-year-olds, because, I've interviewed 600, 700 people roughly in the past year and a half. I've done hundreds of shows interviewing people about relationships. And what I find is the 60-year-olds a lot of those women led their daughters astray. You know, there's a reason we're in this mess, right? A lot of those women had the wrong mentality when it came to marriage and had exactly the mentality that you're talking about.
Which is that one should prioritise balancing one's own sense of identity with compromise in a relationship with someone else.
It's myself before the marriage.
But that's, again, you know,
and it's really unfortunate because I would say
actually.
the women of our generation really are suffering because of the advice of the women of the past.
There's an interesting point here, right, which is that we do live in a very individualistic society, and we're all told, actually, I think a lot of the time, in our relationships as well, you have to be a certain way if you want to receive love. You have to abide by these norms. Yeah. You have to be a certain level of attractiveness. You have to earn a certain amount of money. It's all about you. And that's not what love is.
All right,
love is
all right, listen, it's actually been very interesting listening to this. Let me bring it back in Esty. So Esty, in terms of trad values, like my wife puts the bins out, for example. Right? I've never asked her to. She's just adopted that role in our house. So I never put the bins out. I don't know if I should feel ashamed of myself. I do other stuff, but I don't put the bins out. As a trad wife, do you put your bins out? Is that part of the gender rule of the 50s? Is that what used to happen? Or is the man supposed to do that? I mean, how do these rules work in reality?
To be honest, it has nothing, I don't want to say nothing. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the 50s and the 60s. Especially in our household, I enjoy the aesthetic, and I think that's where people get a little mixed up with my channel. But well, to answer your question, actually, I don't put the trash bins out. My husband does that, but I think we have this this thing in our household where he does most of the outdoor work. I do all the indoor work. Of course, he works and provides, and I'm the homemaker. That's what works for us. But
in relation to what Pearl said, is part of that a sense of being dutiful and having no problem actually with being dutiful in a marriage?
Yes, I believe that traditionalism it is putting your family before yourself, and I think it is having those traditional values that were once definitely more in place in God, family, and love. And we live in a very selfish society now. You know, you see self-love printed everywhere, right? And women, speaking of divorce and marriage, women are leaving marriage far more easier than men, and they are doing it because they think there's something better out there for them, that the grass is greener on the other side, and they're finding out that is wrong, and they're going through divorce after divorce. And you know, marriage is a bond, and it's a sacred bond where two become one under God, and that's beautiful, and you have to protect that at all costs. And I think part of that is putting your partner's needs before your own every single day. And I try and do my best, and I think of my husband as much as I can, and what will please him and make him happy.
I love the sound of this. Sorry, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't dare to express an opinion.
I think
Piers' true feelings came out there. He was just sat there like, whoa, what is this creature? I've never seen this before. It's so true. Like, that was just a natural reaction. As a man, he felt some kind of way hearing that. As did I. I'm like, yeah, this is amazing, because this is my dream as well. And I think a lot of women actually are waking up to the fact that this is actually the best way to live. It is what fulfills us the most as human beings. It's our purpose. It's how God created us to be. Literally in the Bible, a woman should serve her household. Proverbs literally goes into exactly how the perfect woman should be according to what God created and what God intended. And what we're seeing right now is the opposite of that. Women completely self-absorbed, completely selfish. Everything's about them. Everything's about, like, oh, I could do better. Oh, you know, models all over Instagram. And you're looking at that and comparing your man to a model on Instagram and thinking, oh, could my man be better? Yeah, maybe. Like, he's not good enough for me. I'm going to find somebody else now. And all of this is, leading to divorces, and also just dynamics not being right. And you don't even realize that it's weighing down on you when you're in a relationship with a guy who, for example, isn't masculine enough and isn't actually fulfilling his role. Even if you don't think that way, deep down it will be affecting you and you won't even realize it. You won't even know what the problem is, but it's because the dynamics are off. Women are providing, men are staying at home. It's like, what's going on? And it does sometimes cause men to feel like they haven't got a purpose because they're not doing what is right for them. They're not doing what comes naturally to them. They haven't got that purpose of earning money, and that's how their minds work. That's what they want to do naturally, and they're not able to do that in some cases. So it is really sad watching the dynamics get all messed up, and you can see the consequences of that daily.
You know, a lovely way to think about relationships if it's reciprocal.
Yes.
You're talking about God and family and tradition.
This is the
Paul,
problem.
can I please
women always
finish
keep
my
score.
sentence?
Life isn't about
I
keeping
thought
score.
women were supposed to, recognise their place and learn not to speak over other people. No, so look, I think it's reciprocated. You talked there about religion, about Christianity, and about self-love. The kind of most important commandment. There's two most important commandments: love your neighbour as yourself. So that requires a foundation of self-love and respect for oneself and knowledge of one's own identity and what one wants to be able to receive and give the love that you're going to have in a solid and healthy relationship. I think it has to be mutual.
You're not looking forward to getting you all back in about 10 years' time to see if either of you two are married and have stayed married, and to see particularly, Esther, if you're still married and still happily married and still feel exactly the same way you do today.
I mean, who looks happier? Do you know what I mean? The woman in the blue who looks sort of stressed out and, her skin looks like she's been through the wars. Her hair is thinning. She looks unhealthy. She looks depressed deep down. But I don't even think she realises this, but it's what I can see from an outsider's perspective. And then Esther's there, glowing, happy. Her skin is radiant. She looks literally like she's the happiest person, and I can literally see a physical, visual representation of who is happier in this, and it's not her. It's not the woman in the blue. She doesn't seem happy to me, and it's not just what she's saying. Even from the moment I saw this, and I didn't even know what her views were, I could tell from the outset that that's what she's going to be speaking about.
Today about what marriage should be. That would be a really interesting
and
show in
also,
about 10 years.
how happy we are in general with our lives and all the other many rich aspects of our relationships and our careers and all of these things.
Yep. Great debate. Thank you very much, ladies.
Yeah, you look very happy. Not. Oh, my goodness. Very interesting views there. I would have to say I do lean on Pearl and Este's side of seeing things. Like I said, definitely my dream to live out that trad wife life one day. Can't wait. One day soon, I'm going to say. Let's see the comments. At fault laws actually allowed divorce for cruelty and abuse, so she's wrong to paint at fault divorce as something that keeps men and women in an abusive relationship totally. There you go. So even then, abuse and, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to say these things because I'm going to get striked on YouTube, but those things were actually given as a reason that you could legally divorce. And if you were being, I don't even know what words I can say on YouTube anymore. If you were being hurt in a relationship, then you were allowed to leave and divorce your partner in those cases. So again, they're saying things like if back in those days, marriage led to women being stuck in those kinds of relationships. But that's not strictly true, as this person in the comments said. Shane Nolan said, I noticed the hair thinning. Yeah, as did I. That's the classic indicator of stress. So she's clearly not very happy. She's saying she's happy, but I don't think she really is. Anyway, on to the next video. It is called... One second. Boom. Okay. It's called I Am Tired of Women Whining. The female Andrew Tate, Pearl Davis on equal pay in sports. If you don't know, Pearl is a volleyball player and she plays quite professionally. I don't know the terms, but she does female sport. So Let's see what she's got to say on this.
Both, I would imagine, identifying as provocateurs.
Of course.
Let's talk about this first of all. Pearl, I just find the whole personal pronoun thing honestly absurd. My personal pronouns on my Twitter biography are now hot, hotter, hottest. And frankly, if people don't call me those, then they have to be jailed. I go along with that. But I did that to highlight that when I do that and say that, people then accuse me of being ridiculous. I think the whole thing is ridiculous. Why do we need personal pronouns?
We don't need personal pronouns. I don't think it's kind to allow people to live in delusion.
Wait, are you
at the end of the day,
pronouns?
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, at the end of the day,
other than
we don't.
the
Look,
regular.
we all know what a
language.
man and a woman is. Okay, just because you dress like a woman, talk like a woman, act like a woman, it does not make you a woman. And I am so tired of us allowing these people to let us live in delusion. It is delusional to think you are the opposite gender, and it is not kind to
I can't
enable
even
that.
go on. I love flying British Airways, right? My preferred airline, a wonderful airline. And there always used to be a lovely posh voice saying, "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Britain." And I used to felt soothing, particularly if I came from another country back to Britain. I felt immediately at ease. My captain was there, sounding like he was, from some wonderful Pathé News bulletin, and he referred to us as ladies and gentlemen. That's now been banned. They're not allowed to say ladies and gentlemen because there might be one person on the plane who says, whoa, hang on, I don't identify as a lady or a gentleman. Well, okay, fine, I don't care, but I do. So where's my right to be called a gentleman?
Here's
Grace?
No, however.
Also, the majority of people do. It's not just him. Like, the majority of people do identify as the sex they were assigned at birth. That's the majority. Why are you changing the way you speak and the way that, the, what's it called? The thing on the plane, the voice on the plane, what they're saying? Like, how can you change everything just to suit the small minority of people who may identify as something else if they choose to? And also, that's just their own, that's in their mind. There's nothing physical to prove that that is the truth. So they're making things up in their mind. They're in a delusion, and then they expect everything to be changed according to what they feel they are. It doesn't make any sense, and they are literally the minority.
I feel like with this, I'm so bored of it all. I'm so bored of the fact that this...
There's that woman again. Oh, her hair's still thinning. She's clearly getting a bit too stressed out over things that don't really matter that much. So that kind of explains all the stress she's going through.
Is the one item that's constantly coming up over and over and over again. And you can completely see why, right? Conservative governments have destroyed our economy. We're in the middle of a massive climate crisis just after the hottest week ever. I've just come over from Europe. It's extremely hot. And instead of talking about that...
Oh my gosh, guys, the climate crisis. Oh, hot weather, extremely hot. I am tired. I'm going to use her own words. I am tired of hearing people say that hot weather is a climate crisis and they're scared of global warming because it's 40 degrees. Look, this is what these freaks believe. They believe that because it's 40 degrees, that means that the whole entire earth is going to combust into flames. And they literally use phrases like, we are burning up, the earth is burning up because it's 40 degrees outside for a few days in a year. The weakness of these people is just unbelievable. They are so mentally weak that a bit of hot weather scares them. And her views on what she's talking about in this interview completely correlate with her views on climate change. I can already tell you all of her views and everything that's in the mainstream headlines based on what she just said just now.
We spend hours and hours and hours talking about pronouns, talking about going into bathrooms, talking about, all of this stuff that just doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you see, it doesn't matter. Hang on. It doesn't matter to you.
I'm so bored.
It doesn't matter to you,
Piers.
but it does matter to women in sport. It does matter to women whose young daughters might be using these dressing rooms.
And
it does matter to the victims of male rapists who see their attackers identify as women to get into women's prisons. Sorry, so when you say they don't matter, They really do
Let's
matter.
have those issues aired in the appropriate, spaces.
We are.
In sports, have that discussion amongst sports people.
lucky-
But like, literally, it's about priorities, isn't it?
Lucky
There is a
for
certain
you.
number of
I'm
time
a female
that we have on
athlete.
these shows to discuss the issues that matter.
I play
You don't think
volleyball.
women's... Hang on, before we come to our next...
I don't think women's sport matters as much as climate change.
Does women's-
I think like
does women's
having a
equality
planet
matter?
in which we can play sport
Does-
matters more than the
does
rules of
women's
sport.
equality matter
I know
to
that makes me probably absolutely
Does women's
insane.
equality matter to you?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, but actually,
Okay.
I mean, the whole point
Okay.
that I was going to make on this segment actually is that like you cannot separate feminism from class issues. Like if you're just going around saying like, I don't know, I think the female CEO of a weapons manufacturer should be paid the same as a male CEO, and that's the hill I'm going to die on. I'm not fighting that fight with you because ultimately, like, what I care about are the struggles that ordinary women face every day.
Well, let's come to the main point of the segment, which is this issue of women's rights to be paid the same as men in sport. Now, the Australian women's football team have criticised the pay gap in the upcoming World Cup prize money. Let's take a look at what they said as a team.
4 billion toothbrushes are thrown away every year, and every one you've ever owned still exists.
736 footballers have the honour of representing their country on the world's biggest stage, this tournament.
Yet many are still denied the basic right to organise and collectively bargain.
Collective bargaining has allowed us to ensure we now get the same conditions as the Socceroos, with one exception. FIFA will still only offer women 1/4 as much prize money as men for the same achievement.
Well, OK, this is an interesting, Pearl, because if you look at the revenue, for example, in 2019, FIFA generated £586 million in total revenue. The men's, for the 2019-22 cycle, 5.8 billion. Record revenue through the Men's World Cup. So the women's game has come on in leaps and bounds. The English Lionesses, fantastic win, sell-out crowds. They're making a lot more money. They're definitely way, way further now towards where the men are commercially than they were, but they're still a way off. And when you saw at Wimbledon, for example, the men's final was watched by 3 times as many people, and yet they were both free to air on the BBC. You could watch both if you wanted to. So there was 3 times as much interest in the men's game. They played 2 sets more per match than the women do, and yet the women get equal pay. I'm not quite sure why. I don't think it's a matter of equality. It's just a matter of fairness, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I won. I think all of the women should thank the men for funding our leagues because most of our leagues would not exist without the men, number one. Number two, when we have the same numbers, then we should get the same pay. I'm sorry, I play volleyball at the highest level, and it's like, when we make what the men make and get the crowds that the men draw, then we should get paid the same.
That's so true. Probably going to get hate for this too, but I'm just going to say it. If women aren't getting as many views as men do for their games, then it's true, they shouldn't be paid the exact same. It's just like if you, for example, have a management of some kind for talents and the talents are releasing videos and one of them is getting like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of views for each video and it's generating loads of money for you as a company, but then the other talent is getting like a few hundred every week and it's not matching up at all and it's not really earning you any money at all. Why are you going to pay them equally? That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, what he's saying is correct. What Pearl's saying is correct. I completely agree.
Why is it actually a fight for equality, Grace? I mean, why, if women in a particular sport, for example, turned out to generate more revenue, right, because they were more watchable, and in America, the women's football team is better than the men, and they do generate, even at school level, far more interest from girls than boys, for example, I don't see why equality should be the aim. Why shouldn't they get paid more than the men?
Well, look, I mean, there are all sorts of problems with the way that this market for labour, and it is basically a market for labour, works. Like, I personally don't think that the top football players in the world should be paid as much as they do. I think it's ridiculous, the amount.
But that's market force.
Exactly. It's market forces.
Well, why shouldn't they get that?
Should that be the way that we decide, you know, who generates what? Personally, I'm very much in favour of the fact that they came out there and said collective bargaining. Ultimately, like, the average worker in this country hasn't had a pay rise in over a decade. How is that going to change? That's going to change when they organise with one another.
I am so tired of women whining.
Mate, the only person whining at the moment is you.
Literally, the men fund our leagues and we will still whine that we don't get paid enough. And honestly, when athletes do shit like this, it makes all of us look bad. Because instead of being thankful for the league that we have, we go out and whine and complain about the pay.
I mean, as I said, I'm not whining. You sound like you're maybe doing a bit of whining. But like personally, I don't think we should be whining. I think people should be organising. If you want a pay increase, join a union, get out there and fight for it. That's my view.
Should the women footballers get the same as the men?
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense.
Even if they're not making anything like the revenue?
Ultimately, like, it's not going to change. It's not going to change unless they organise. That's actually true across every sector in the economy. If you want a pay rise, join a union and fight for one.
Let me ask you this, though. They have got unions.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this. On talent alone, for example, as a yardstick.
4 billion toothbrushes are thrown away every year. And every one you've ever owned.
The US women's football team were beaten by a group of under-15 boys from Texas, right? Who were very good, under-15 boys, but their under-15 boys team beat them, I think, about 8-9-0 or something. So why should women footballers, who are clearly nowhere near as good as their male counterparts, just technically, why should they get paid anything like as much money?
Well, I mean, you know, it sucks, doesn't it, that, like, as a woman, yeah, okay, you play volleyball. I'm a surfer. I absolutely love surfing. It's very hard for women to build up a body strength. This is something that I've learned very much the hard way. And so,
surfers, by the way, there is equal pay.
Yeah, there is. And actually, you know, it's one of those sports where...
Can a woman be as...
I'm sure it's equal all thanks to her. I'm sure she's the one who organised that.
Good as a man or not?
Well, it's different. It's a different sport, really. It's not, you know, it is the same sport, but it's very different watching a woman surf than it is watching a man surf because, you know, the average male body is different from the average woman, like, woman's body for all these...
But is there any actual technical reason why a woman can't do with a surfboard what a man can do?
Yeah, there's loads of reasons. Like, it is about the upper body strength. It's about, like, the way that the body is built.
So should women...
Oh, wow. She's just admitted that we're different. Men and women are different. I can't believe she's just admitted that. This is the first bit of sense she's spoken. This entire interview. Wow.
Surfers at the elite level get the same as men.
But, like, again, I think it just is different. Like, it's a different kind of game and people watch it.
You're shaking your head.
No, I just think when we start making the same amount of money as the men, then we should get paid the same as the men. I don't hear the men whining about OnlyFans models getting paid more than them. I don't hear the men whining about models getting paid more than them. Kendall Jenner is the highest paid supermodel. Where are the male supermodels? But whenever men dominate in an industry, women will just complain.
I mean, I don't know if that's true about OnlyFans, because there are a lot of men on OnlyFans as well. But I mean, look, the main point here...
You think they make the same?
I have no idea, but like, maybe if you average...
Is she actually trying to disprove Pearl on that point? That women earn more money on OnlyFans? Are you kidding? Like, that is like... Out of all the things Pearl said, that is what she's trying to disprove and argue with. I think she just wants an argument because there is no way that men could earn more money on that app.
Out the number of men and women that are on that website. Anyway, look, the main point here, the point that I came on here that I wanted to make was that the problem that we have in our economy at the moment is not that like the average football player isn't paid the same as the average man. It is probably an injustice, and I'm glad that they're organising and working together to fight for that. But ultimately, the problem we have in our economy is that nobody's getting paid enough money because inflation's eroded people's wages. Even before that, no one had a pay rise in a really long time. And the lesson from this is, as I've said, I'm going to say it again because it's an important lesson and no one knows about them anymore because they see them as a hangover from the 1970s. Join a union because otherwise your boss is going to walk away.
But there are unions for all these. It's the unions that are fighting for them.
Exactly.
But just as a general point, though, the principle you think that women should get paid the same, even if they're not as technically as good and not producing as much revenue.
Well, it's a subjective judgment, isn't it, on whether or not they're like technically as good?
Well, not really.
No, it's not.
Because people watch men and women's sports for different reasons.
Well, let me give an example. An example would be the Olympics. If you made it non-gender specific, how many women would win medals?
Well, I mean...
None.
Okay.
Maybe in equestrian and maybe in shooting, I think, are the two.
But again, I think...
Where there's no sense that the men might win.
You can say, like, oh, you know, this group is better than this group. But again, I think it's different.
Men are better than women at sports. Yes, let's not live in this delusion.
And in most cases...
Tell him, Pearl, tell him.
And in most
Okay,
cases,
national
Grace,
sports.
more people, men and women, want to watch men play sport.
Correct.
That's just a demonstrable fact. That may change. And my point is, if it changes, I don't see why equality should be the only ambition for the women. If it turns out that in some sport women get more viewers watching and therefore draw more revenue, I'm all for them getting more money than the men.
Can you name 5 WNBA players? 5 female soccer players?
I mean, I can't name any soccer players
That's
already.
crazy. I
What
wish we
is
had the support
WNBA?
from the
basketball?
feminists.
I don't
we
know.
would get equal pay if we would just get the support from the feminists.
Well, let me tell you.
Name 5.
Let me tell you.
I don't even know what the WNBA is.
We need our support.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah,
I think.
you really are.
But I do want to mention one thing, which is I had Dale Vince on the programme. He's been funding Just Stop Oil, and also he was very, very keen to show his feminist credentials because he owns a football team, and he had just hired the first female manager of a football team. But there was a slight problem, which he only made her the caretaker, and I saw a potential flaw here. So let's see what went down when I interviewed him. You didn't think by appointing the first female caretaker manager of a professional men's team you would get any attention?
She's the best candidate for the job at the club. This is what happens. You look at within the club, you find your best coach, and you say, take the team in an interim period while we do a proper recruitment process. That's all that's happening here. Why do you keep coming back to that?
Because she's
If you
only
look
a
at our
caretaker.
record of appointments.
She's only a caretaker.
Look at our record of appointments.
So if you believed in her that much, you'd have made her manager. You've got all the publicity, but actually she's not got the full
That's
job.
not how it works.
And I suspect what's going to happen is you're going
I
to go
thought
and
you
find...
understood football.
You're going to probably go and find a bloke to replace her, and then you're going to have to deal with that.
I thought you understood football, Piers.
I do. I'm an Arsenal fan. Well, you might be...
You can just tell he's full of so much bullshit, and I think Piers just mentioned that he, I don't know, has some ties and connections and maybe some higher up powers in Just Stop Oil. I hate this organisation. I think they are full of shit. I think that they are literally plants planted there by the government and massive organisations like the World Economic Forum, for example. And I think that most people in it aren't aware that it's a plant organisation who are literally there to push agendas and to make us reach Agenda 2030 faster. But there are some people within the organisation, Just Stop Oil, who I believe fully know what they're doing, and they know that they are pushing this fear campaign and agenda of climate change in order to scare people into handing over their freedoms to the government. And when the time comes and then they create some massive climate event that's just happened and, oh gosh, guys, there's, 5 years left before the end of the world. We need to make a change now and we have a solution for you. Because in history, it's always been massive, scary scandal. And then, everyone's fighting for their lives. And then, okay, I've got a solution. There's like a strong leader that comes in and says, I've got a solution. I'm going to save you from all of this. And everyone's so desperate for a change and for a solution that they just hand over their freedoms and rights and go, listen, I'm handing it to you, take it, because they don't know what to do at that point. And I think that Just Stop Oil are scaring people into getting to that point where they're so desperate for a solution that they hand over their rights. And they are, they're succeeding, I would say, but I think people are waking up slowly. So I think we'll get to that great awakening before they are successful.
Be massively unsurprised to learn that 12 days later, Hannah Dinkley has been removed from her job as caretaker manager and replaced by a man. Yeah, Dale talked a good game on feminism and women's rights and boasted about it and got all the publicity. And in the end, he got rid of her after 12 days and put a bloke in charge. And you can...
Yeah, of course he works with Just Stop Oil. Of course he does.
Make your own view about Mr. Vince for doing that. Lovely to see you both. Thank you both very much indeed.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, this live show has come to an end. I'm tired after watching all of these deluded women chat absolute shit, and I'm losing brain cells from doing this job. I'm not going to lie. Losing brain cells, and losing hope and faith in humanity. But then there are other things that happen in the week that kind of bring that back for me. So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Did you enjoy this video? It was my first ever live video, and I probably will start doing these more regularly. So if you did enjoy them, or if you did enjoy this one, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content and live videos such as this one. If you ring the notification bell, you'll get notifications when I'm going live and when videos are out, so you can see them. Thank you so much for staying on this live stream. There have been so many viewers this entire time, and thank you so much for sticking there till the end if you did. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Thank you.